Hi, I'm Ms McCabe, UK editor of Campaign, and welcome to Campaign's Media360 podcast, produced by Fresh Air Production, and recorded here at the 21st Conference in the Grand Hotel, Brighton. This year's theme was risk and innovation, so for this series we spoke to a huge range of marketing leaders to explore how they and their teams push the boundaries for their brands and clients. In this episode, Fresh Air's Director of Content, Michaela Hallam, spoke to Zoe Harris, the Chief Customer Officer at On the Beach, about the bold risks they took during the pandemic and how they've built the brand since.
We are back on the beach, or on the seafront, in very rainy Brighton at the Media360 conference. We've got the conference going on next door to us and some traffic on the seafront. But quite aptly, I'm talking to Zoe Harris, who is the Chief Customer Officer for On the Beach. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I'm asking everybody at the start of these conversations to tell me what being them within their brand actually means on a day-to-day basis. So you're the Chief Customer Officer, but what does that mean that you do week to week, month to month?
So it's how we make consumers want to be our customers on the one hand, so creating desire for On the Beach over and above other holiday companies. And then it's making sure our customers have an amazing experience. So we believe that, we know that the beach holiday is the best week of most people's year, and we want to make sure that nothing goes wrong for the people that choose to spend their money and their most, the most precious time of the year with us.
Brilliant, thank you. As we've said, we're at Media360, where the conference theme this year is risk. Now that means different things to different people, I think. So we've been kind of getting a few different conversations about interpretation of risk, but it's a really useful question to help us get to know a little bit more about you as an individual. So what's the biggest risk that you've taken in your life?
It's a work one, and it was in COVID, which I know seems a lifetime ago now. But if you remember, it was that time when it was very stop-start on lockdown, not lockdown.
Yes.
Which was very challenging for us in the holiday industry, because one minute you were going, then you weren't. So we were in this weird situation On the Beach where we were selling holidays knowing that they might be cancelled. And we were cancelling on a huge scale and refunding customers. So On the Beach, we always refunded in cash, unlike lots of our competitors. and so that was logistically challenging as well. Customers were very anxious. They weren't going to get their money back. They were. It just took a bit of time from the moment of cancellation to getting the money back in their accounts, etc. So we decided to stop selling holidays. And we went very public with it. We advertised that we weren't selling holidays for that summer, July and August. We didn't think anyone else should be either. So depositioned our competition, took the high ground, the moral high ground. And that was risky. One, because had it not panned out, I mean, we did go back into lockdown. It was absolutely the right decision. But there was risk there, right? We weren't 100% sure. We were pretty sure. We were looking at all the data. We were looking at what was happening across Europe and in Dubai and in our other popular destinations. But, it wasn't 100% slam dunk that that's how it was going to go. So there was commercial risk. We would lose holiday bookings and revenue.
Yep.
There was marketing risk in terms of our SEO rankings were impacted. We had high bounce rates from the site. Consumers were coming and then seeing we weren't selling holidays and then leaving again. Same with PPC. And there was share price impact as well. So when we announced this, there was an immediate impact on our share price. And my boss, Simon Cooper at the time, who's also the founder, big shareholder. So you're like, oh God, I've actually just cost him this many millions of pounds. But ultimately, it was the right thing to do. We thought we should back ourselves. We believed in our data and our reading of what was going to happen.
Yeah.
We knew it was the right thing for the consumer. Why sell holidays that we were 75% sure weren't going to happen? It was the right thing for the business because it enabled us to take thought leadership, really think differently about how we could be seen as a consumer champion. And there was the PR upside as well. So for the first time, we were on the Radio 4 Today programme, BBC Breakfast, etc., etc. So, and it gave us a different thing to talk to our consumers about. So our email marketing, so we've got 5 million engaged users. So it was a big decision and a risky decision. It was one that paid off, but it required a big leap of faith, taking a deep breath, putting your bulletproof vest on when you watch the share price overnight.
Holding out, I guess, as well, once you've made that decision.
Yeah.
And do you think that the result of that is that your consumer base have a better understanding and a bigger trust in you as a brand?
It's amazing. So I still go on Facebook. So there's some unofficial Facebook groups. One's called On the Beach Complaints, as an example. And through COVID, that was quite a tough group to go and read. But when you go now, and there's still people complaining, there's still things we get wrong. But the number of times you'll see in there, no, in COVID, I got my money back. Other people didn't with other holiday companies. And every time I see those messages, I show them to the CFO and the CEO and go, look, it was worth it.
Yeah.
Because at the time it was massive,
scary.
millions of pounds. Yeah, for sure. So it pays back and people do remember. And so yeah, it's that hold your nerve moment and that doing the right thing by consumers will pay off in the end.
That kind of plays into the next question, which is all about creating a culture in a working environment that enables people to feel that they can take risks and make those challenging decisions. How do you kind of advocate for and try to create that sort of a working culture where people are able to push themselves, be it strategically or creatively?
So I ask the team to bring me ideas that will scare me and keep me awake at night. And then when they do, I go, oh, shit.
They've done what I asked.
Yeah. In fact, it happened last week. I was asking for like much more interesting quotes and press releases. And it was a Friday afternoon. I sent it. I was like, oh God, this might be one I regret sending when I start seeing some of the quotes come back. We have a wall of shame, wall of fame in the office, which is all of our legal complaints that we get from our competitors who are not happy with our advertising, our competitive claims when we call them out for their dodgy pricing and their dodgy sales messages. Complaints from consumers. We've got a nice email from our legal counsel saying she's never had a letter with so many fucks in it from the SA, which was a complaint about one of our ads, sounding like we were saying fucking genius instead of booking genius. So yeah, I think trying to showcase that. And also the other thing is, I was talking about this yesterday, when you talk about risk and you say to people or agencies or creatives who want risky ideas, people can go to a very obvious trope really of like the number of ideas we've been presented about vibrators getting through customs.
Right.
Or penis rings setting off the alarms on the airport security. I'm like, I don't mean that by risky. You know, I mean like we're not selling holidays anymore.
Yes.
I mean like genuine consumer champions, not kind of some... people tend to go kind of sex and it's like...
That comes back to people's definition and understanding of the word risk, I think.
Like really get under the skin of the consumer. What's really going to do something interesting and unusual, and don't just assume it's about toilet gags and sex and old people having sex, and it's like
surprise me, please.
Yeah, proper surprise me. And it's hard to do, isn't it? Actually coming up with risky ideas is really difficult, which I think is why you don't get surprised and scared more often.
Yeah. So you've talked about you're asking your teams to bring you ideas that challenge you, that scare you, as a quite deliberate strategic tactic. Have you got anything coming up that we can look out for that is going to do that?
We've got one thing which I can't really talk about yet, but we haven't found a way to do it. So we've got an idea we've had for about 6 months, and we're trying to find a way. And the team are really excited about it, and I'm committed to not letting it go, even though it's really difficult to do. So I think it's one of those where I'm saying to everyone, we need to keep coming up with other ideas because this one might not come off, but this one is brilliant. And we will try and find a way. And so every, one of those times when you have a spare hour or towards the end of the week, I go, right, what's another way of chipping away at this?
And revisiting it.
Yeah. So I think it's that thing as well of keeping ideas, even if you can't make them happen right then. And actually, it's a smaller example, but the line that we use in our ads now, which is book like a genius, holiday like a fool, we sat on for 2 years. So when we first were presented it, we liked it, but we thought, oh, you can't call our customers fools and they'll think we're saying they're stupid. And then 2 years on, you go, it's still knocking about in my head. Fuck it, let's have a go.
So what changes, though? What's the thing that pushes you to say, OK, no, I believe in this. I'm going to go with it?
I think we'd established the tone of voice of the brand a bit more and the ad idea. So we knew we were onto something. We knew our ad is a polarising in a good way. So the people that it's aimed at love it, and the people it's not aimed at don't like it, which is fine by me. Yes.
Exactly.
So we could push it harder. We've got Paddy McGuinness as the voiceover.
I was about to say that you've got a really distinct tone of voice.
Yeah.
And Paddy McGuinness is the kind of the face and voice of the brand. Why is he such a great fit? And when you said it's kind of that Marmite almost, if it's aimed at the people who like it, brilliant. But if you don't, then fine. But is choosing talent to be the embodiment of your brand a risk in terms of that decision-making process?
We had a different voice for the first 2 years, and which was a bit more of an aspirational voice. And that was good, and it researched nicely, and everyone was like, oh, yes, and I wouldn't have expected that person on the beach. And so it was ticking all the boxes, but it was a bit boring, if I'm honest. It was boring, it was unexciting. We couldn't really do much with it outside of being a voiceover on the ad. Paddy McGuinness is our brand ambassador. He's in the office. He works on ad scripts with us. he will say, that's a bit rubbish, how about this instead? He goes on our holidays, he makes amazing social posts, he really gets what's great about holidays and airports and the first beer and the all-inclusive breakfast. So he's a great person to bring it to life.
Believable person, I guess. It comes out that authenticity.
Yeah. And we've got some exciting things coming up with him later in the year as well.
This is the first time that campaign are podcasting from the event. And it just makes me think about the conversation that we've just had about him being the face, but also the voice of the brand. How do you work with audio? And how do you think that audio is a great tool? I'm saying great. Do you think it's a great tool in order to communicate to your customer base?
Yeah, and actually when we made the TV ad, so we did do TV first, but we wanted something that was very audio based. So when we first did it, it was around the music, where we used The Most Wonderful Time of the Year Christmas song to sell summer holidays. That could translate across to radio. And now with Paddy, we can be more conversational in our advertising. And some of what we do is kind of very, what really is mostly done well in print, so advertorial style content with Paddy McGuinness and some of the talent from some of our radio partners. So Global in particular, we've done some interesting things with. So Paddy chatting to Chris Moyles or other bits of their talent. So really starting that dialogue. So yeah, audio is great, isn't it? Because it's easier, cheaper, quicker, can be more conversational, especially when you've got someone like Paddy who is genuinely the voice of the brand. Like he can just chat and he can sell on the beach better than I can. It's amazing. You know, how often does that happen? So you just want to give him a microphone and let him go, really. Yeah,
that makes total sense. I'm going to revisit something that we kind of touched on earlier in terms of the travel industry and your customer base. There's been a double whammy. There was COVID that we referenced, but also the cost of living crisis now. So how has that impacted your marketing strategy?
So customers are so desperate to go on holiday. It's the last thing they want to let go of. So it hasn't affected our sales yet. We understand, though, it is a big decision for consumers and things that they're saving towards and managing their money around. We're seeing changes to what customers are booking. So a lot more all-inclusive. Again, your money goes further. People going maybe for fewer holidays but longer. So more likely to do 10 days than 1 week, as an example. And then what continues to be important for us is how we make our holidays accessible, so low deposits and pay monthly, so people can manage budgeting towards their holiday as well. So all of those things are really part of the On the Beach offering.
Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today. I really appreciate it. We've had a little bit of impact from the conference going on next to us, but I shall look out with eagerness to see what the creative challenges that you've been trying to make happen, and
whether I can get the big one off the ground or not.
We'll
You'll definitely know if we
that.
manage it. You won't miss it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down. I've been talking to Zoe Harris, Chief Customer Officer for On the Beach.
Thank you for listening to the Campaign Media360 podcast, presented by Michaela Hallam, the Director of Content at Fresh Air Production, our podcast partner. There are lots more conversations to hear with a great range of marketing leaders, so please follow on your favoured platform so you don't miss an episode.